One Side podcast where we talk about anything and everything without a filter. I'm your host, Sydney, and I'm joined by my sister, Jessie.
Hi.
So, any guesses on what we are talking about today? We have our little pink outfits on. Yes, that's right. We are breaking down the Barbie movie and all of the metaphors and themes within it. Let me first do an up close of my makeup.
Look at how good it is.
Thanks. I did some sparkles.
Iconic.
And yeah, we just want to talk about the movie because it has a lot of themes in it about just like spirituality, femininity, masculinity, everything in between. And we're also going to talk a bit about The Sound of Freedom because we see how much attention the Barbie movie is getting and not enough about Sound of Freedom, which in my opinion is so much more important than all this bullshit about masculinity and femininity. Like, why can't we all just work together? So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so if you haven't seen the movie Barbie, we're going to be spoiling some stuff, so don't watch this if you haven't seen it. But basically, the movie begins in Barbie world where everything is pink and very feminine, and the Barbies are the ones in charge of everything. Like, they're the lawyers, they're the doctors, everything in between. And basically, like, the Kens are just there to be, like, boyfriends to the Barbies. They don't really have any real, like, power or, like, value to them other than that. So it's kind of just showing how unbalanced it is in their world. Everything is feminine. The guys are just there for like just side pieces to Barbie, basically.
It's almost like a reverse world to like what we live in now. And it's just funny because it's like, would you say it's like the female gaze almost?
Yeah.
Instead of like the male gaze that we live in here, it's like the female gaze. Like everything's for girls there, and the guys are always trying to please the girls and do everything for the female gaze.
Yeah, and it's basically just showing how like the Barbies are just doing their own thing and the Kens are just there to like do whatever they want, and they're just there to be their boyfriends and make them look like a cute like couple, I guess.
Yeah, and then like that's all of Ken's identity is just to be like Barbie's boyfriend and to do like anything that will please them and like make them happy.
So a bit into the movie, like in the beginning, Barbie starts becoming real. So she starts getting cellulite, her feet go flat. And basically like the metaphor behind that is like her player that plays with the Barbie is putting all these insecurities like into herself. She starts thinking about her insecurities more instead of like this perfect version of herself that she has in her head. So Barbie kind of starts merging with the real stuff in the world instead of like this perfect version of herself. And the whole Barbie land is kind of like showing the Matrix, which when I say the Matrix, I mean like this constructed ideology that's not real. It's made up and everybody doesn't question it. They just stick to it. So Barbie's kind of like stuck in this Matrix where her life is just always the same every day. She wakes up, does the same thing. She's this perfect, stereotypical Barbie. And then randomly she starts kind of breaking out of the Matrix by having all this real world stuff starts happening to her. And she starts questioning like, when do you think we're going to die? Or what happens when we die? Like she starts having like real life, like human thoughts, which is interesting if you believe in any of like the whole Matrix theories and stuff of like breaking out of the Matrix. Like it's cool that they showed that in the movie because the movie kind of is like a spiritual awakening.
Oh, I actually saw this really good explanation on TikTok, and basically the girl, what she gathered from like Barbie like waking up into like the real world was like basically in Barbie land she was like her child's self. Like when you're a child, like you don't have insecurities really. You're like happy about everything. You think anything is possible. You have all these great big ideas and just like you just feel like you're invincible. And then basically when she starts like her feet going flat, she like has smelly breath
flat
or whatever.
Feet.
Yeah, flat feet. Like all these insecurities are coming. It's basically like showing how when young girls reach puberty or become teenagers, like they're awakening into like they're getting all their insecurities and they're like becoming a woman in a sense and like human. And as a child you don't really feel like that. Like you're not hard on yourself. You don't care what you look like as much.
It's kind of like we as kids, we literally believe we can be and become anything. We have this magical way of thinking, and all of a sudden you go into the real world, which is like the Matrix. Like, no, you have to live in a box, be this certain type of way, and it's just not good.
And you also have like such a huge imagination as a kid, and you literally think anything is possible because your parents tell you that. But at some point in our lives when we grow up, like we're surrounded by like literally everything, like the media, the patriarchy, misogyny, all of that, and it like starts to switch your way of thinking from a kid to becoming a teenager to a woman. And Yeah, I think that's what was happening with Barbie there.
Yeah, so then Barbie finds out that she has to go talk to weird Barbie, which I think Barbie represents like this perfect version of ourselves, and then the weird Barbie represents all of our insecurities and fears. So it's kind of like your higher self versus like your shadow self. And how there's like two sides to everybody. They have like their fears, insecurities, and then they have like this perfect version that they're always trying to become. And it's kind of like battling between the both of them. And she's kind of like merging and becoming one, because in real life, the ideal way to be is balance between both. You can't be all perfect and you can't be all of your fears and insecurities. You have to have balance of both, because you are both of those Barbies. You're the perfect one and you're the weird one, and you have to find a way to balance that, instead, because there's like no balance if you're just trying to be perfect all the time, or if you're just always insecure and like weird, quote unquote.
Also, did you notice in the movie how when they were describing like who Weird Barbie was at the start to like normal Barbie, that like they're like, oh yeah, Weird Barbie used to be the prettiest Barbie in all of Barbie land, and then something happened to her, and then she became like Weird Barbie, and like she became like ugly in their definition, and it was just crazy because I feel like they were trying to scare all the other Barbies, like you can't like slip up, you can't not be
It's like
perfect, or else you're gonna end up like Weird Barbie.
it's the whole Matrix thinking of like fit inside this box. You have to be the certain way. Like don't go out exploring yourself or becoming anything else than this like model of who you should be.
And I feel like it's crazy because at the end of the movie, when they were all talking to Weird Barbie, they were apologizing for calling her Weird Barbie all the time. And I feel like they were all just following each other almost like, oh, they think she's weird. I'm going to think she's weird too. Because the Barbie at the start of the movie didn't even know who Weird Barbie was. And she probably wouldn't have even thought she was weird unless people didn't put those thoughts inside of her head. And I feel like that's what we do in a society is like, oh, like they don't fit into the normal standards or the box. Like they're weird.
And not even like, if we're talking about real life here, not even just like the normal standard of beauty. If we're talking about anything, like if you don't follow a certain life plan of like, get the husband or the wife, get the job, follow this life plan, then like you're an outcast, you're the weirdo. And like that's just not true. Like anybody can do whatever they want. And there's this whole box in society that they try to make you think is normal. Like there literally is no normal in life.
And they also talk about how women, like specifically, are expected to be perfect all the time. It doesn't matter like what you're going through, what you look like, you're always expected to like have your head held high and like be the bigger person and like just excel at everything. And like they talk about that in like the girl's like iconic monologue. She's just like, you have to do it all, you have to be it all, and you can't complain about it.
Yeah, so then in the movie, Barbie gets told by Weird Barbie that she has to go to the real world and find her player and basically like reconnect with that childlike innocence of freedom and not caring about anything, that you can be anything you want. But then when she gets there, she realizes that like nobody thinks that way about Barbie anymore. She gets told by her player's daughter that like Barbie stands for being perfect and like putting you inside a box, and her whole identity kind of gets shattered because she believes that her whole existence is like I can do anything and blah blah blah, but it's actually kind of pushing the idea of perfectionism onto women, which makes them like hate themselves.
Well, I feel like Barbie started as that way as kids. Like it used to be like, I don't know, it used to be for young girls like, oh my god, I want to be Barbie, I can be anything. But then it switched into like, oh, I have to look like Barbie, I have to be perfect, I have to be blonde and white and all of this. And like that's when the girl was like telling Barbie off in the movie, like you literally have made every girl feel so insecure and hate themselves because of what you portray to the world.
I want to say personally, I never felt that way playing Barbie as a kid. I didn't think about that at all. I was making my Barbies have sex, okay? I was not like thinking about, oh, I have to look like this Barbie. It was more of just like I was having fun with it. But I can understand like other people that don't look like that could feel that way.
Yeah, but I also think like as you grow up though, you start comparing yourself as to like, why don't I look like a Barbie doll or a Bratz doll?
Yeah,
like,
that's
Bratz
true.
is like a huge thing. Like I used to think like that too. I was like, oh my god, like Barbies are so perfect. Or like girls that like real life girls that actually look like Barbie. I'm like, wow, like that's what we're supposed to look like. So I guess I can see like where they're coming from.
Yeah, and everybody feels that way where they have to fit inside this like perfect, like now it's like the Kardashian look. If you don't have the Kardashian look, then you're worthless basically. And
it's also like the Victoria's Secret models too. Like they got canceled because like nobody can look like that. Like it's unrealistic. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with Barbie growing up is like it's so unrealistic to look like that and be perfect all the time.
Yeah, so basically she goes to the real world and she goes with Ken. So Barbie and Ken kind of split up. So Barbie can't find her player. She finds the girl's daughter, which she thinks is her player, but it's actually not, but she doesn't know that. And she gets basically ripped to shreds by the daughter. So then she just goes to find Mattel, the creator of her, and she tells them what happened, and they're like, oh, if you just go back into this box, everything will go back to normal. So it's like she's on the verge of breaking out of the matrix, and it's like a whole metaphor of society trying to guide you back into this box, like just go back to the way things were, go back to this idea of perfectionism and being like the whole
Literally
like
fitting you into a
yeah,
box.
literally the whole box thing was such a metaphor for go back into the box of what society wants you to be. And she was like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
She wanted to keep finding out who she was and like the truth of everything, which I thought was such a good metaphor for like the spiritual awakening.
Because humans like don't belong in a box, and like as she was becoming more human throughout the movie, she realized that like maybe old Barbie, like who she was at the start of the movie, would have been fine going back in a box, but like as soon as she was getting like real emotions and insecurities and all of that, she was like, fuck that.
And it's so like fitting to the spiritual awakening journey. Like we've definitely gone through those.
yeah.
And once you wake up to a higher level of like consciousness, you can't go back to the way you were. You can't go back to like, oh, I need to live this life. Like you can't go back. Like once you start learning stuff, you just want to learn more. Like you cannot go back.
Well, if you think about it, like back in like high school and stuff, everybody's trying to fit into like the box of like what everybody wants to see from you and like what you think is expected of you. You want to fit that perfect box. And then once you like leave high school and you start finding who you truly are, you don't want to go back in that box anymore because you are like finding out the truth to life and who you are.
While Barbie is off, like trying to get the stuff done that she came there for, Ken is off in the real world, finally getting like respect and admiration for being a man, and he's learning about the patriarchy, he's learning about masculinity, which he's never learned about before, because in a previous world, in Barbie world, that's all he was like a sidekick to Barbie. Like his only worth was doing stuff for Barbie and getting attention from Barbie. So when he goes to the real world, he starts getting all this attention, and he is finally like expressing masculinity for the first time. And I feel like it's kind of like the idea of like when guys get their heart broken by the girl of their dreams or the girl they want to be with, this person that they're always trying to get attention from, and it doesn't go the way they planned, then they go like down this super toxic masculinity route, kind of like a fuck you to all girls. It's like one girl breaks your heart, or you don't get some girls interested in you, and then you're like, oh fine, then I'm just gonna be like super masculine and try to like start like what's the word, like opposing women, basically, like going against them, because if they don't want me, then I don't want them, and I'm gonna be like an asshole to them and just use them as like my like side pieces, like my eye candy around me. Because he goes back to Barbie world and he makes it super masculine, and all he wants the girls for is basically like eye candy around him, just how it was before, except now it's flipped and the guys are in charge. And I don't know, it's just super crazy.
Something I noticed was like before, like old Ken, before he went to like the real world, was like, did you see how all the Kens were competing to like win Barbie's attention at the start? They were like, oh, I have to do this, I have to go ride a wave, and like he would fail at the wave, and like Barbie wouldn't like give him the time of the day. Like he had to do something extraordinary. I can't say that word. Extraordinary. Yeah, to like get Barbie's attention or to get a woman's attention, right? But then back in the real world, like when he went there, he's like, I don't even have to do anything or be anything, and I just get respect for being a man. And like it clicked in him, like, wow, like I'm a man, like that's enough. Like I can just exist and I get respected just for being a man. So then when he goes back to Barbie world, he's like, I don't know, he demands the same respect there.
And then it becomes a new matrix in the Barbie world, where now it's basically the exact same but flipped. So all the men are in charge, and then all the girls are now in this matrix way of thinking of like, oh yeah, like this is the way it is now. I'm not going to question anything. Like guys are in charge and I'm just going to do whatever I can to please them. And now the girls are trying to get constant validation from the men. So they wear skimpier clothes and they start
and they're like
serving like to the men. And it's basically the same way it was before, as like all the Kens serving the Barbies. It's now flipped. And it's kind of just how it is in the real world. I don't think it's one or the other in the real world. I think it's both. Men are constantly trying to get woman validation, and women are constantly trying to get man's validation instead of finding out who they are on their own without doing that.
But I also feel like in this world, like guys are also trying to get men's validation even more too.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just trying to get like men's validation because like their opinion matters most here.
Yeah, because there are a lot of guys that like they think they're doing it for woman validation, but it's like girls don't care about a lot of the stuff that they're trying to like these
it's for
big,
the male gaze,
these
and that's
big
what it is here.
buff bodies. Like a lot of girls have come out and said like they're not attracted to that, but guys think girls want that. But it's like guys think that looks good, girls don't.
Or another example is how guys will date super attractive girls that are like out of their league or whatever, and they do it though when they don't even like these girls. They do it just to impress other guys, like, oh look, I got this hot girl. Exactly. And like it's just to impress other guys. Like
it's all just to get validation from
meanwhile girls will date guys that like are not the most attractive, but they'll date them based on their personality and who they are as a person, not based on their looks, just to get validation from other people.
Okay, so then when Barbie comes back and she sees how everything's changed, she's like upset because she wants it to go back to when Barbie was in charge. She doesn't like that it's all men. And so then her player comes with her and she basically does this whole monologue, which is amazing, about how everything that women have to go through that like isn't perfect, everything that they have to deal with. And it kind of wakes Barbie up to realize that like she can't go back to Barbie land of women being in charge all the time, and it can't be all masculine dominating either. She realizes that like this perfect world doesn't exist where like everything's perfect.
Well,
it doesn't exist.
That's like the contrast between being a child and growing up is because you can't unlearn all of your experiences and all of the things that you've learned. Like she can't go back to that like childlike innocence because
which she tries to do, but then the girl wakes her up and says like no, like, and she does this whole monologue like you aren't perfect though, like women aren't perfect, and she says all this stuff.
Fairy tale land that she wants to go back to, but that doesn't exist. Like it just doesn't.
And also her going back to that fairy tale land would also mean that the Kens would go back to being second to Barbie, which isn't right either.
No.
Like she kind of got a taste of her own medicine of like, I was in charge before and now I'm second to Ken, but then she wanted to go back, and Gloria basically said like that's not how it has to be.
And I feel like that's what people get mixed up in this world. It's like when girls are fighting for feminism, which a lot of them do. They do fight for feminism, but they like want girls to be in charge.
That's what...
Which feminism means equal rights for all. Like you need both.
That's what equal. I don't understand is all the talk I've heard about this movie, everybody's saying it's a woman film for women. I don't think that's true at all. I think it's showing how like you can't have girls rule the world and you can't have boys rule the world. We have to work together. Like we balance each other out. We have two different energies that literally come together. We need each other. And I feel like the movie kind of ended off on like them both finding themselves, but it's like, yes, you need to go find yourself, but then come back together. Don't just separate forever like man and woman.
Well, I also think it's a message to girls that only want to fight for other girls, because like misogyny and the patriarchy, like we've seen this, like it affects both girls and it affects guys too, because guys, like toxic masculinity, like it affects everyone. It's not just girls, it's not just guys, like it's both. And I feel like girls that are only fighting for the rights of women to make them more powerful than men, like that's defeating the purpose.
That's literally just doing the same thing.
Yeah, you're just going reverse. No. And I feel like Barbie did a good job of showing that, like what could happen if you just one side is in power, one's not.
But like, I feel like people are taking the movie not for what it's supposed to be saying.
No, they're missing
like
the whole point.
I feel like the movie told that perfectly, but people are all thinking and saying, "Oh, it's just for women to be."
I've seen guys say that
not.
It's sexist, and I'm like, are you watching the same movie I am? Because they're trying to actually show that Ken's guys don't need girls to be happy, and girls don't need guys to be happy. They just need to be themselves and like find their own purpose, not to serve each other.
Yeah, like it was basically showing like each side tries to serve and get validation when that's not the point. You just have to be yourself, and that's enough. You're enough. That's what it says in the movie.
Enough. I love that. I want that sweater. But at the end of the movie, like it was basically showing like how you just need to find your individuality and like your uniqueness and be you and yourself. Well,
before we get to that, I also want to bring up a couple other things. So then like Barbie and Ken apologize to each other for basically doing like the same shit to each other. Like they apologize. But then Ken basically expresses that like, I don't know who I am without Barbie. Like Ken only thinks his only identity is chasing after Barbie. And Barbie basically tells him like, but you're Ken. Like you don't need to have like the girls around you to have like the mink coat that he was wearing, all this masculine stuff. Like it was basically saying
they also brought up that he thought he was only beach, and she's like, you're not just beach, so you're not your job.
It was basically showing that like guys only feel valuable when they have a woman, when they have a job when they can provide something, that doesn't make you who you are.
And that's freaking the patriarchy.
That's just stuff that you can do and provide. That's not who you are. And everybody defines themselves by, I need to have this career. And like, that's not what life is. And
girls do the same thing too. Everyone does.
We all
they
do
define
it.
themselves by what they have, how much money they have.
Because it's the matrix. It's literally the matrix of like, I need to become something in this world. Like, we all wake up and we're like, oh, what do I want to be when I grow up? Like, you are you. You can just be you. And like, we need to demolish this whole idea of like becoming something.
And we're convinced that it's not enough to just be ourselves and just be who we are and just own that. But we have to like strive to be something greater. Because
if you don't know who you are and you're not comfortable in that, no matter what job you get, no matter any material you have, you're still going to find something missing because you're missing within yourself. Like, that's the whole point, is like, you need to just be yourself and know yourself and be authentic. Okay, so at the very end, which was my favorite part, because she meets her creator, like the woman that started it. I don't know her name, but the woman that started it, it was literally like a spiritual awakening of her meeting God. Like, her creator was literally like a whole metaphor for like meeting God. And her creator basically tells her, like, I didn't create you to become anything, to have any job, to be perfect, anything. I created you to just experience life and be you. And that's literally the point of life. We don't have to get the certain job. We don't have to become anything. We don't have to be perfect. We literally are just here to exist and experience fun things. Like, that's all it is. And everybody thinks like you have to become something or get a certain job.
Purpose. And I feel like we all do have a purpose, but at the same time, you shouldn't let your purpose define you. Like, you're good enough as the way you are.
But at the same time, every purpose comes down to spreading love in some way. Like, that's what the purpose is to spread love. Like there's different purposes, but they all kind of come back to just spreading love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, I just think that like transitioning to The Sound of Freedom,
we're gonna talk about it.
Overall, I just think that like the movie should be less about like woman dominating or like each person goes separate ways in finding themselves. It should be, no, find yourself, and then men and women come together to tackle bigger issues than fucking masculinity, femininity. Why are we talking about this instead of literally kids being sex trafficked, which is the whole fucking bigger issue in this world?
Can we talk about how much marketing they did for this movie? Like, it's everywhere. Like, I haven't seen anyone go this crazy for a movie in like a long time. And like, I remember seeing like this movie being advertised like before this year.
Yeah.
Like, in like, I don't even know, like the fall. I just remember like them posting on Twitter like behind the scenes of them filming. And I'm just like, why are they like posting this already? Like, it's not even out till July. If you look at like the Sound of Freedom movie, that movie was actually, that's what it's called, right? Sound of Freedom. It was actually filmed or released 5 years ago, but companies bought it out so that it wouldn't get released.
Disney bought it out.
All these big named actors wouldn't go into the movie. Why? Because they didn't want to get involved and they didn't want their name attached to it and they just didn't want to get involved.
And the reason why is because a lot of the elites in this world, most of them, are the ones doing this stuff.
And if you follow the Sound of Freedom Instagram, like you look at their page, they are pushing for coverage on this. Like, they're telling people to share it. And they're getting no coverage. They're trying to get promotion, and yet Barbie is just everywhere. And everywhere you look.
I understand Barbie. Barbie was a really good movie, and it's like ironic because we're like, why is everybody talking about Barbie, but we're sitting here talking about it? Like, the reason is because there's a lot of good themes in that movie. I understand why it's so popular, but at the same time, like, the fact that it's everywhere. Like,
it's taking over everything. And usually when things are pushed this hard in the media, it's because they don't want you talking about something else.
Yeah, they're trying to cover something up. And it's just like, people should have the same energy for Sound of Freedom that they have for Barbie.
I haven't seen anyone talking about Sound of Freedom. Like, I'm confused. Like, no one. And it was an amazing movie. It was so fucking good and emotional.
Because this world pushes, like, this world wants people to constantly be divided. And yes, I think the behind Barbie movie, all of the underlying themes were actually good, but everybody's taking it as, like, men versus women. It's just become another two sides going against each other now.
Can we just talk about how the fact, like, they knew what they were doing with this? Because whether they had good intentions with the movie or not, they knew that this was going to cause an uproar with people.
Exactly.
And I've already been seeing it everywhere. People are like, oh, I don't want to see Barbie. It's all for girls, all for women. Or, like, people, like, what's his name? That freaking guy that's so annoying.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro's made, like, 3 videos on it already saying how dumb it is. And, like, just, it's becoming like this conservative versus liberal thing.
It's always like one side,
like,
men
why
versus
is it political
women,
now?
liberal versus conservative.
But this was what they wanted. They want people to talk about it. They want people to be like causing an uproar about it. They want people to be divided at the end of the day. And it's just crazy that this is getting so much attention when movies like Sound of Freedom are out there talking about what's happening to fucking children, millions of children all over the world.
Yeah, and it's almost like, can we stop whining about ourselves, man versus woman? Oh, who is more on top? Can we stop and just come
Like,
together for once in our
issue.
lives and fucking fight for the children in this country? Because
this is not our biggest issue
like,
right now.
And they're
like,
trying,
why?
they're trying to make all these issues, like, yes, I understand women go through terrible things, but like we need to talk about the bigger things here.
They need to stop trying to divide people and get them together. And I just don't understand. Like, where is the same energy for our the children?
They're
and like
constantly trying to divide and conquer so that we can't talk. Like, this is the whole reason. They don't want us to talk about this.
Exactly.
They want us against each other, so we're fighting
why?
about bullshit.
Because a lot of elites and like famous people are involved with this exact issue, and they don't want them being exposed.
That's what the Sound of Freedom was talking about. It was showing that there's like big people that do this stuff, and they showed like the island. We all know what the island is. And it's just like they're throwing it in our face, trying to show us without fully telling and dropping names, but we all know the people that do this stuff, and more people need to, like, we should all be talking about this. If we all came together and all talked about the sex trafficking with children and just sex trafficking in general, the shit that we could make happen.
Like,
but
more people need to be angry.
We're fighting fucking bullshit about man versus women. It's just
like the patriarchy. Like, why? This has been going on for 60 years now. Like, can we give it up? Like, we need to talk about real issues here because they're destroying families and children. Like, it's insane.
It's just like disgusting, and it's sad, and it feels like there's no hope for this issue because it's been forever that this is going on, and it's only getting worse.
Sex trafficking is it's only getting worse, and it's always going to be a problem. That's the worst part of it. Is like, it doesn't matter how much like we talk about it, how much marketing it gets, it's always going to be a problem. But if we can use our voices to actually come together and try to fucking fix it just a tiny little bit,
the only way it will stop is if we hold the people in charge that are doing these fucking crimes accountable.
But they won't, because everybody glamorizes all these celebrities, all these famous people, all these actors, and you're not realizing they're all a part of the issue. First of all, they won't speak about it. Second of all, they're involved themselves. Third of all, like, they just care about fame and money at the end of the day. They don't care about these children.
Yeah, and that's why I can appreciate somebody that's famous in their work, but I will never obsess over them.
Never glamorize them.
Because, first of all, even if they're not involved in anything bad, nobody needs to be obsessed over like that. It's not normal. We are all human. Nobody needs to be, like that rich, to be that famous, that they're above people. It's just not right. Like,
it's just
seriously.
wrong. And, like, to put all these people on pedestals, like, it's just insane to me because you don't know, like, they know things that we don't. They have more power than we do. They know all the dirty little secrets of the elites in Hollywood and everything that goes behind the scenes.
And this isn't conspiracy theory. Like, so many people that are in that crowd have come out and talked about it.
And guess why he's not in movies anymore? Because he spoke out about it.
So many people have talked about this stuff. Even just, like, people that aren't really celebrities, but they've been in the celebrity scene. They have proof with pictures that they've been friends with these people. They've come out and talk about, like, this is a known thing that Hollywood's fucking evil. They do fucked up shit.
Rituals,
and I'm just sick of it, like, not being talked about because it's not allowed to be talked about. Because if you talk about it, it gets fucking removed, or there's something big in the news to take your mind off of it, like Barbie.
Doja Cat just released a new song, and it's literally straight up devil worshipping.
Oh, I know.
And she made it to be purposely catchy so that it gets stuck in your head.
Bro, when I tell you, I was like, okay, I want to watch this video, and the only reason I watched it was to see how satanic it was. When I tell you, bro, as I was watching it, I was like, this song has something in it. It wants it to get stuck in my head. I've been fighting the urge to keep listening to it.
Oh, it was catchy, and I actually liked it, but people in the comments were like, listen to another song after this because this song will get stuck in your head, and you don't know it, but you're subconsciously manifesting, like, devil worshipping, and it's not good. It's negative energy.
Okay, if you guys don't believe in this stuff, like, we might sound crazy to you, but let me explain. It's literally been proven that, like, celebrities and, like, the music industry will put certain frequencies into the music to make you, like, addicted. Like, you can't get it out of your head.
This is how so many people worship celebrities too, because they're being hypnotized through their music.
It's hypnotization. And like XXX, he literally came out and said that he makes his music a frequency that's, like, good and healthy for you. And
now he's
gone. And I don't believe that was, like, a right, like, him dying wasn't, like, it was sus. So,
but there's so many examples of this, and, like, we should do another podcast on just that alone.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it right now, just because.
But it's just an example.
I don't want this video to not be pushed out if we're only, you know what I mean? Like, videos like this won't get talked about because, like, the algorithm doesn't want this stuff on the page. So, anyways, I think we said all that we want to say.
What do you rate Barbie movie out of 10?
I rate it like a 7 because it was really good. It showed like a spiritual awakening, all the things I like. However, I feel like there were certain parts where it was pushing too much of an agenda, kind of. It was a little bit too like political at some parts, and I just don't like how much they're marketing it. I feel like there's a weird agenda behind it, although the actual movie itself, but like aside from all the marketing, it has a lot of good themes. So yeah, 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I give it like an 8.5 for like the same reasons. I really like the movie and the messages behind it. I feel like more guys would learn a lot about what women have to go through, and more girls would learn about what guys have to go through if they all watched it and like kind of came to an agreement and like actually understand like the underlying themes in it. But I think Sound of Freedom was like 10 out of 10. Like, it was amazing.
And aside from like the themes and the marketing, whatever, the actual movie, like the cinematography was amazing. Like
the outfits,
all of the stuff, like the way they made it, like in the beginning, that like the way they just like move, like they drop from the sky. It's like how we're playing as kids. We just like throw them around and they just like move like how Barbie dolls would move like in the real world.
And I love the montage part where she's like having the spiritual
awakening.
The
monologue?
No, the montage of like her having her spiritual awakening and like learning about what being a girl is, and like it was just so cool. I love that part.
Also the monologue where the girl does that whole speech. It was like that was amazing. So amazing.
Iconic.
Everything that she said, I was like, as a woman, I've related to this.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, that's all we have to say on the Barbie movie.
Go see both movies.
Yeah, go see both of them because they're both so important. Leave your comments down below if you have anything about Sound of Freedom or the Barbie movie that we might have missed, or any of your thoughts on this. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the Blunt Side podcast. We will be back for more videos. Well, probably just like me. I'll have her on sometimes. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.